Tom has enjoyed, you're kind of at the very top. You've enjoyed the pinnacle of your success, OK? Olympic gold at the 2020 Olympics. Woo. Amazing. How did that feel when you finally got that gold?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I've been doing it for 21 years now, diving, so... And it took, 4 attempts at the Olympics to do it. And the thing is, there's so much pressure in that one moment because you train for 4 years, or 5 because of COVID, because it got delayed, and there's 6 dives in that competition. After all of those years of training, it comes down to just 6 dives, and that's 1 of each of the dives that you do. If you mess up any one of them, it's over. You have to wait another 4 years,
yeah.
so...
But it must be just such an amazing moment when you knew you had it.
Yeah, it's unlike anything you can actually ever express in that way, because it's like... I know that I was capable of doing it with Matty, but it was that moment of... I almost was getting ready to accept that I was never, ever going to be an Olympic champion and having to, learn to live with the fact that I'd worked my whole life and never quite got there. So that feeling of when it happened, it was just such elation, but at the same time, it was so weird because no one was there. Because of the COVID, so my family wasn't there, the stands were empty other than some of the athletes, so it was a very surreal experience to go and dive almost in silence, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did that help in any way, though?
I think it could help in certain athletes. Like, for example, it was Matty's first ever Olympics, and he goes and wins in his first competition. And I was like...
That's so
annoying.
Yeah, it was bloody annoying, yeah. I was like, Matty, and he was like, what? That's what you do, isn't it?
But the amazing is, one of the things that you got famous for out there, of course, wasn't just your diving, it was your knitting.
Yes.
So you're sitting there before, the biggest moment of your life, the culmination of all these years of training and sacrifice, and you're just knitting.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I mean, knitting for me, I bloody love knitting.
Yeah.
It's my way of getting out of my head. Like, during the Olympics, you weren't allowed to socialise, you weren't allowed to go outside of the village, you couldn't go and do anything other than be in your room doing nothing. And there was so much time to overthink and worry about things, so I was just knitting. I've been doing it everywhere, on the bus, on the plane, on poolside, in the stands, watching the diving.
So this is like a mindfulness thing for you?
Yeah, I was just able to be completely in my own little world.
Because you weren't knitting for long before, were you?
In March 2020, I started, so it was literally... I think it was 3 weeks before lockdown. There was a lot more time to be able to learn new things.
So did someone knit in your family? Did someone teach you?
No, I just learned through YouTube tutorials.
Wow.
And taught myself. And each thing I made, I learned a new technique, new stitch, or whatever it may be, and then started to design. And then the idea of the book came up. And now, just in time for Christmas, it's a lovely gift, any knitters,
so it's called
crochet.
Made with Love, and it's kind of a beginner's guide, isn't it? As well as there are kind of...
Some
they're not
advanced
called...
ones
What are they called?
too.
They're not recipes. What are they called when you...
Patterns.
Patterns.
Yeah.
Georgie, have you ever knitted?
No, well, I've tried.
Any
I'm really
crafting
bad
at all?
I do cross stitch.
OK.
Which is basically like paint by numbers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a colouring book.
But that's also like a mindful thing, isn't it?
It's nice, but usually I just do it when I'm watching, hours of television that's gone on too long. If it's, 6 hours in front of the TV, if I'm at least cross-stitching, then I feel like I've done something.
Yeah. And are they... When you finish these sort of things, I don't know if you're... But do you keep them for yourself? Do you give them as gifts?
I do give them as gifts, yes.
I've given
a couple as gifts, especially at the end of jobs. I made one for a friend of mine, Rasmus, which was really pretty, had flowers all over it, but in the middle it said, "See you next Tuesday." Oh, wow. But he loved it.
How did you put in a request for that? Or you just thought this would be a lovely surprise for him?
It just made sense. He loved it. It was fine.